Hi everybody, I'm Greg Fishel. Welcome to bonus weather video number 3 for this week. And I thought since we have a disturbance out in the eastern Atlantic, the far eastern Atlantic, that the Hurricane Center gives a solid chance of developing into a named tropical cyclone, that it might be interesting to look back through some tropical cyclone climatology and see whether or not this is unusual or not unusual. So I hope you'll find this interesting like I did. So let's go on ahead and take a look at the tropical weather outlook as issued by the National Hurricane Center today. And we have Tropical Storm Sean, which is not expected to do much of anything, but the red X you see out here indicates a disturbance that the Hurricane Center gives an 80% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone over the course of the next 7 days. So depending on how quickly it develops, it has a chance to be one of these long track systems that comes all the way across the Atlantic and eventually gets into the Caribbean Sea or the Western Atlantic here off the southeast coast of the United States. Okay, so this chart can be a little bit confusing, but we'll try to break it down here. So the colors here correspond with the number of named storms that you would expect to see over the course of a 100-year period within 150 nautical miles of any given location. Okay, and this is during the month of September. Now the study that was performed to produce this map, the data was actually collected over a 77-year period from 1944 to 2020. So they had to take a look at the number of storms over a 77-year period and then correlate that with a rate per 100 years, okay, and which is not a very difficult thing to do. So again, the bottom line is what you're looking at on the map is the number of storms you would expect to see over a 100-year period within 150 nautical miles of a given location. You can see the maximum extending from the central Atlantic to off the North Carolina coast and then trailing back toward the Cape Verde Islands. And this is the month that we are most likely to have a long track tropical cyclone, one that starts off way in the eastern Atlantic, works its way all the way across into the Caribbean Sea or the Western Atlantic off the southeast coast of the United States or the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so if you're going to have one of those, September is the month where you would be most likely to do that. And then if you change the criteria to hurricanes, then obviously the colors back off a little bit, but you can still see that in this red area here, that's more than 50 over the course of 100 years, so at least one every 2 years. And there's still this tail that extends back toward the Cape Verde Islands. Now, let's move to the month of October. What a change. And we don't even have the oranges and the reds anymore, but we do have the greens, which is 30 to 49 over a 100-year period. And that extends from off the southeast coast down into the eastern Gulf of Mexico and the western Caribbean Sea. And of course, the Caribbean Sea has some of the warmest water on the planet, and so it's not surprising that that extends down there. Is there a tail that still extends toward the Cape Verde Islands? Well, if you use your imagination, maybe, but it's not much, certainly not as pronounced as it is during the month of September. But I do want to point out here that this black area is less than 10. So it doesn't mean it's impossible, okay? It just means that it's highly unlikely, okay? So I don't want you to think that, if this thing develops in the eastern Atlantic, this is unprecedented, It's just would be highly unusual, okay? Now, if we change the criteria again to hurricanes, then the colors, back off a little bit, but nothing too dramatic, okay? Of the number of hurricanes over a 100-year period passing within 150 nautical miles of a given location. And here you have no tail back toward the Cape Verde Islands whatsoever. And then in the month of November, obviously things really shrink with an area of 10 to 29 named storms off the southeast coast and the western Caribbean and the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. And then if we change the criteria to hurricanes, the areas are even smaller and obviously no tail heading back toward the Cape Verde Islands. So once I looked at all of this, then I thought, oh, let's take a look just for fun at the average return period for hurricanes and major hurricanes along the North Carolina coast. So this is the return period for hurricanes within 50 nautical miles of a point. And you can see those 5 dots along the North Carolina coast ranging from 5 to 7 years, okay? Now, a lot of people assume that, oh, that means that every 5 to 7 years, I'm going to have a hurricane along the North Carolina coast. And it doesn't mean that, okay? This is averaged out over a long period of time. So let's take the number 5, okay? That goes into 120, okay? 100 divided by 5 is 20. So you would expect over a 100-year period to have 20 hurricanes hit the North Carolina coast. But it doesn't mean that that's going to be a linear distribution, okay? You could have a whole bunch, not a whole bunch, but several bunched up for part of that 100-year period, and then a lull for another part of that 100-year period. So when you look at this, you really have to divide that number into 100 years and say, okay, this is the number that we would expect to see over that time period. And obviously, we've had named storms. We had one of them this year with Ophelia, okay? And so, getting a hurricane to hit the North Carolina coast is not quite as difficult as a major hurricane. So here is the return period for major hurricanes within 50 nautical miles of a point. Obviously, the numbers go up. So you've got anywhere from 16 to 25 years, okay, along the North Carolina coast. Now, if you, let's make Wrightsville Beach 20, okay? I know it says 17, but let's just, for the purposes of argument, make it 20. So 20 goes into 100 5 times. So over a 100-year period, you might expect 5, maybe 6 major hurricanes to hit that part of the North Carolina coast. When you see the 17 there plotted, you're saying, okay, the last major hurricane to hit the North Carolina coast was Fran, and that was 27 years ago in 1996, and that says 17, okay? So can you make the argument that we're a little bit overdue? Yeah, but you can't say that, just because that says 17 there, that 17 years after 1996, which would have been, 2013, that we have to have one by that time period. Okay, that's not the way this works. You really have to look at it over an extended period of time and then see what you end up with when you do that. So are we a little bit overdue? Yeah, but is it terribly unusual that we've gone this long without a major hurricane making landfall? Not necessarily. You really have to wait, for a long period of time to be able to make that kind of an assessment. All right, folks, I hope that was interesting, at least to a little bit of a degree. That is the bonus weather video for this Friday. Excuse me. I don't have a cough button here, so I can't hide that. But anyway, I hope you have a wonderful Friday evening, an even better weekend. Stay dry tomorrow and put up with the clouds and cool temperatures on Sunday. And we'll talk to you again the first of next week. Another word for that is Monday. So you all take care, folks. We'll see you later.